Imagine stepping back into the dating pool after a 3-year break, only to have your very first date end with blood drawn, an unhinged marriage proposal, and your cat emerging as the ultimate hero. Today's story time is absolute proof that sometimes the biggest red flags aren't found on a dating app. They're found right in your living room. I met up with a woman named Tracy. She matched her photos, had stunning green eyes, and seemed perfectly normal. Until she decided to test her luck against my socially awkward ginger cat, Honey. What happened next had me laughing so hard I sounded like a cartoon dog. And I swear you are not going to believe how this ended. So anyway, I was talking to Tracy for just over a month, and she asked if I would like to meet her for a coffee. I said yes, but I felt a little unsure because this was literally going to be my first date since my divorce 3 years ago. Tracy, who is 43, had never been married, but she was saying one day she would if it felt right. I told her that it makes sense. It's not something you rush into. The date started off great. She was beautiful, she had the most stunning dark green eyes, shoulder-length blonde hair, and she 100% matched her photos, so I felt myself relaxing a bit. But then I started to find it a bit strange. She kept talking about weddings and what her ideal honeymoon would be. I'm not going to lie, I almost asked if we could change the subject. Instead, I showed her a picture of my ginger cat called Honey. She was all, "Oh my god, so cute! Can I meet her?" I didn't know what to say, to be fair. She did this sulky look and said, "Can I meet her now?" I said, "What do you mean, today?" She jumped and said, "Yeah, all excited." I warned her that Honey was a little socially shy and awkward. 10 minutes later, I pulled up outside my flat. We walked in and she said, "Oh, you have a lovely home." I noticed Honey slowly walking into the room to find out who was disturbing her little nap. She did a big stretch and then suddenly her eyes locked on Tracy. Tracy then squealed that she was so adorable and she gestured for her to come over. Well, Honey wasn't having any of it. She just sat there like she regretted leaving her comfy spot. Eventually, Honey walked up to me and was purring so loud. She was laying down, showing her tummy. I leant down and kissed her fluffy belly. Tracy had that pouty, sulky face, as if she expected me to make Honey adore her. Because yeah, of course my socially awkward cat was just going to trust someone she just met. Honey didn't take her eyes off her. Suddenly, Tracy moved over and tried to kiss Honey's belly. Can you guess what happened next? There is only one person she allows near her belly, and that's me. I tried to stop her, but it was too late. Honey hissed, kicked out with her back legs, and bit Tracy on the nose. Picture this, her face being kicked, her nose bitten, and one of Honey's front legs scratched her head. It happened so fast. Honey ran out of the room. Now, you know when you really shouldn't laugh, but there's this part of your humour that sees this moment as the funniest thing? I was sounding like Muttley from Wacky Races, desperately trying not to laugh. I knew that if I started, there would be no stopping me. She just sat there, completely silent. She slowly looked up at me. Her nose was bright red. She had a small scratch on her forehead, and I then noticed scratches on both sides of her face. She suddenly said, "She bit my nose." That was it. I burst out laughing. Tracy had pulled out tissues and a mirror, inspecting her scratches. What made it so funny was the fact she had angry scratches on both sides of her face, but she just kept on about her nose. It was just red. There was no cut or anything. She then ordered me to take her home. We walked out to the car, and I kept having bursts of laughter. When I could barely breathe, I was laughing so much. She kept glaring at me. Well, I did bloody warn her. I thought, you know something? I'm going to drop her off at the coffee shop. I pulled up outside the coffee shop, and I said, "Here you go." The look she gave me was comical, and I burst out laughing again. She looked at me and said, "You should drive me home." I asked her how far away she lived, and she said it's not far. I handed her 20 quid and told her to get a taxi. And get this, she smiled and said, "Oh, thank you. But when we get married, there is going to be a lot of changes." When she closed the car door, she walked around, stood next to my window, and gestured for me to open it. I opened it a little, and she said, "Don't I get a kiss?" I looked at her and I said, "Goodbye, Tracy. I hope you find your Mr. Right." Before she could say another word, I closed the window and I drove away. I watched her in the rearview mirror as I drove away, clutching her £20 note and nursing a completely uninjured nose while sporting fresh tiger stripes on both cheeks. Walking back into my flat, the silence was brilliant. I found Honey curled up exactly where she had been before the chaos started, looking incredibly pleased with herself. She didn't just defend her favourite nap spot, she actively defended my entire future from a woman who was already plotting to rearrange my life. It was a total disaster of a first date. But honestly, it was the exact reality check I needed to realise I'm going to be just fine out here. If you enjoyed this dating disaster and want to hear more chaotic first date stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next episode of Dating Disaster Diaries. And honestly, after this one, I think Honey deserves her own fan club.